All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me. Well, good afternoon. Victoria Taft with you, the Adult in the Room. That's right, exactly right. I'm the Adult in the Room. And maybe some of you are as well, but we are a small tribe of people who believe that common sense is the coin of the realm, should be dispensed very, very liberally. How about that? Hey, President Trump is in office 1 year today. I'm going to show you the Sizzle reel and talk a little bit about that today, some of his accomplishments, but I'm going to let him tell the story, moreover, by telling in his own words what his accomplishments were. And before you think that I'm going to play the entire news conference, I'm not. But it was so long today at the White House press briefing that President Trump did. It was so long that I really believe it will completely take up the entire live stream today. So I'll just check back every once in a while because we've got a couple of interviews today. We're going to talk to my friend Dan Sandini about the rock throwing incident. Actually, it was a rock attack on a guy who was in the Trump tribe on the streets of Portland, and how it is that the prosecutors don't really think that the person who literally took a rock and bashed it into someone's head unprovoked, well, gosh, there doesn't appear to be any kind of crime here. And same kind of deal in Seattle. Also, what's going on in Minnesota. The takeover of a church on Sunday has just been blowing people's minds. And so when you see evil, that's what that looks like. When you see demonic things happening in your world, in the United States, it's real easy not to see stuff like that. Until it confronts you and just it's right in your face. And then you go, okay, I guess, as Ronald Reagan said, don't be afraid to see what you see. And so we will go over that today. We're going to talk about the Insurrection Act with an attorney. He's a former federal prosecutor. We've had him on plenty of times. John O'Connor, we're going to talk with him. And so much to talk about today. Well, Sizzle reel for the president. I'm going to show it to you, and it'll be kind of fun. Let's see. I don't make sure that this is the right one. Let's go.
And did it
Well, that was quite a sizzle reel for the president of the United States. Not a bad job. He's gotten more done in 1 year than most presidents do in 8. And the reason he's gotten so much done is because he started his second term on the ground running and running a marathon at a more than a trot's pace. So we'll bring you up to speed on that. I have to start out because I've promised to do this as a bit the entire program long. And I admit it's a bit and it's fine. Here we go. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. I just did this. And it is the president's, it's right here. The president holding a news conference today. And here we go. So I'm going to start it. And you're not going to hear it all. You have to go to C-SPAN and listen to all of it if you want. But it starts, and I just want everybody to get out their stopwatches because this thing went on forever.
We have a lot of accomplishments, and as you know, this is the anniversary, first anniversary, January 20th, and it's been an amazing period of time. We have a book that I'm not going to read to you, but these are the accomplishments of what we've produced. All page after page after page, individual things. I could stand here and read it for a week and we wouldn't be finished.
He read most of it today.
We've done more than any other.
You will not be hearing most of that.
Done by far, in terms of military, in terms of ending wars, in terms of completing wars. Nobody's really seen very much like it. I think it's appropriate that because Minnesota is so much in the fray, and I say to my people all the time, and they're so busy doing other things, they don't say it like they should. They're apprehending murderers and drug dealers and a lot of bad people, and these are just some of the more recent ones that we have, and I can show you some of the people, vicious, many of them.
Okay, we're going to keep him talking in my headphones, but and I'll bring him back every once in a while too, so you can hear him. But it's pretty hilarious. I mean, I listened to most of it, and I looked at my husband, and he goes, "Why are you laughing?" And I go, "Well, because he's going on for like 2 hours, and I haven't heard him repeat many of the things that he has accomplished over the past year, and he knows because he knows this." Everything he does is going to be, it's going to be fought out in court. They're going to find some pretext under which they would bring a lawsuit against him. And so there you go. Let's see. We have our first comment of the day. And the first comment is from this poor guy who says that churches are what's the problem. The Christian grooming organization is the problem. Because I asked him, who hurt you? And he said, the Christian grooming organization. So anyway, thanks for being out there, everybody. Let's see. Leaktka says, hello. Hi, how are you this afternoon? Appreciate you being there. And you can comment as well. Sometimes I share the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's what happens. And not a lot of commenters so far. Last week, whew. Anyway, that's okay. It's quite all right. All right. So what I've made sure that I've written it out so even in words of 2 syllables so I can read them. What we're going to do today, and I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about with John, and that is about the legality of the Insurrection Act as well as the FACE Act and First Amendment issues. These are things that are important in the lifeblood of a country where people are very spirited, where they want to engage in the political process. But you know what happens? The political process doesn't look like this.
And sisters, you come here to a man wearing a suit. Is a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? Did Jesus profit off the words? No! Jesus would dine with enemies. Do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens.
Hey, you can't.
You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity? Where are you?
This is one of my favorite points that the left likes to make. You're a fake Christian. You are not Christian enough. In fact, you're a sinner. To which every Christian should go, yeah, that's why I'm here. Yeah, that's why I'm a Christian. Yeah, that's why I do this, because I'm a sinner and I need a savior. That's what they're doing there. But of course, eventually, the left says about this crash of this Christian church, the fact that they went in during Sunday services, stopped everything, terrified people who did not know if they were armed or not, and took over the service and screeched and screamed at people and terrified the kids. Shame on them. Absolutely shame on them.
You're sinners. You're pretending to be Christians. But we know you live an easy life, don't you? A very easy life while people are starving. Shame. Out now. Out now. Living real comfortable while the people starve. Living real comfortable while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're all living real comfortable, aren't you? Shame on you. Do something. Stand with the Somalis. Stand with the Latinos. Quit ignoring this injustice. He wears a suit and tie, and he hangs out with Kristi Noem. How is that a Christian? You're supposed to accept all immigrants, are you not? Why are you not going down to Whipple and
that's another one.
Protest against this?
How come you're not doing it? I do. I'm a good person. How is it that you're not there? How do you know they're not there? How do you know that they're not helping people who are immigrants? You assume that because they're Christians and you make assumptions about their political beliefs that they don't comport with yours. Therefore, you can go and screech at people and accuse them of all kinds of things. And eventually, it always comes down to this, the latest epithet against anyone who counts themselves as a Christian and are more conservative. And that is Christian nationalism. And that, of course, is going to get you hooked right in to Adolf Hitler, because it always comes down to Hitler with these people. I'm going to play the rest of it, and here we go.
It's inhumanity. You claim to be a Christian, act like one.
Act like one. Well, I don't know what he claims to be, but he should probably try to act like a decent person, which he's not doing there. Let's see. Calling yourself a Christian. Here we go. This comment, calling yourself a Christian doesn't make you a Christian. Actually, living like a Christian, living like Christ makes you a Christian. I don't see much of that going on at all. How do you know? What do you mean you don't see much of that going on? By what are you calling for them to do, in your humble opinion? How should they live? How should Christ followers live? How should they do that? Let's see. This Jess, who's making a point about how more people than not in the churches, i.e. the Catholic churches, because they have hid their pedophile issue for years and they kept passing the trash. And so, you know what happens? I'm going to tell you, you'll probably find a higher ratio of pedo teachers than other groups of adults as well. Why is that? Because people who want to hurt children for their own gratification and the child's terror are likely to go where the children are. Let's see. Last time I checked, you required the hungry. You required to feed the hungry, house the homeless, visit people in jail, treat foreigners. That doesn't sound like America. How do you know? What do you mean? What are you talking about? People visit people in jails all the time. There are entire Christian ministries built around going to prisons and helping people. Oh, man. So, there we go. Let's say okay. Jess, your last comment of the day, you mean like pastors? Yeah, I know. Well, whatever you think. I mean, that doesn't mean Christ did not die for only your sins. He died for theirs as well. And I would say to you that the other thing you need to bear in mind is if you find a good body there, buddy, you find a place where you feel comfortable going, and make sure there are no kid diddlers in there. So you be the guy. You be the guy. Lass says the Trump cult will soon fall. A lot of people, it sounds like, from Greenland and Canada in here. Trump's been saber rattling today, and I wasn't really going to spend much time on this, but I will say this, that in terms of Greenland and the issues surrounding Greenland, the president today said that when I think of Norway, and because Norway is where a lot of these decisions are made on these different countries and how the international community looks at the certain issues between two countries and come up with thoughts and next moves and that sort of thing. And so he says, no, Norway is not, I'm not thinking about Norway in terms of peace much anymore. Well, it's Trump. What is he going to do? Drop a bomb on him? No. But what he is going to do is going to go, dude, we need to have Greenland where we can put our troops, okay? And we need to put our troops on Greenland because if we don't do it, Russia and China will do it. That's his point. That's because and now Trump pointed out today that Britain is going to give back or give to another country, Diego Garcia, where one of America's largest air bases is. I mean, this is, woo. Okay. Oh, here we go. This person's very, I'll get to your comments in just a second. I got to talk a little bit more about the takeover of the church on Sunday by the folks who claim that they are of higher moral superiority than are anyone inside the church, like the guy who's yelling at me. Let's go back one more time. Let's see. Oh, that's something else. I'll tell you about that, Matt. So this guy here, yeah, this guy goes to different churches all over the country, especially in Washington, D.C., to Pete Hegseth's church. And he is a guy he's got a name. I'm going to share this tab and make sure you can see it. Hold on a second. I'll just make sure you see this tab so you can see the story. Career activist who disrupted Minneapolis worship service, also targeted Hegseth's D.C. church because now, of course, he had an evil tattoo on his body, which connoted that he was a Christian nationalist. Remember that? Poppycock. Remember that? Anyway, so this guy, yeah. I mean, it's always the Christo nationalists. This is where they invariably go with their talking points. That's why this guy and others and, James Tallarico, that state senator from Texas who's making the rounds on Ezra Klein and Joe Rogan and that sort of thing, he actually defaulted to Christian nationalism. If you are a Christian and you happen to be a conservative person and you may have voted for Trump, why, you're a Christian nationalist. And that immediately kicks you right out of God's family. You're not a Christian. That's where that guy's going with this. And it's absurd. Of course it is. So the professional protester who's going around telling all these Christian people in the church, the sinful people in the church, the people who go to church because it's not a place to repose, it's a hospital for sinners. Anyway, so this guy is William Kelly. Daily Wire reports this. Daily Wire says that he is a self-described combat veteran. I don't know why he would lie about that, but it is apparently not. I mean, is it DD-214 out there for him? I don't know. Maybe if you could find it, really appreciate it. So there are some people out there watching right now. Anyway, he was captured on video storming into the sanctuary with a mob of other activists associated with Black Lives Matter and the Racial Justice Network. The demonstrators chanted, "Hands up, don't shoot." You know about the hands up, don't shoot, right? Just a reminder, the hands up, no, don't shoot never happened. Never happened. That was a lie told by the left and the best friend of Michael Brown, or at least his drug dealer. And from Ferguson, 2014, I went to Ferguson and I saw where Michael Brown was shot dead. And I just thought, I didn't see any blood or anything, but there was a memorial there to his memory. And I read all the investigations. There were 3 of the investigations. There was a state one, and there was I think there must have been a local, state, and a federal one. Because, of course, Obama sent all of the DOJ to Ferguson to find out, or we were lucky they were trying to find out, not frame him, that, remember the police officer, Darren Wilson, from whom we've never heard in all these years because he's in hiding, who murdered Michael Brown when he was reaching for his gun and almost got him and then shot him. That guy? Oh, you don't know that, do you? Well, I read all this stuff. And anyway, so we've got 3 investigations, including the federal civil rights investigation, which found out that, that whole hands up, don't shoot thing, big fat lie. Ferguson and parts of St. Louis burned for that lie. Black-owned businesses burned for that lie. So anyway, Kevin Ezell, the Daily Wire, it is Daily Wire, reminds us that the Southern Baptist Mission Board said on X that he'd spoken to the city's church staff members, that's the name of the church, who reported that the kids in the worship service were terrified. Can you imagine? These maniacs burst into your sanctuary. Can you imagine this happening at a mosque by any chance? Women coming into the men's side of the mosque and rabble-rousing and blowing whistles and screeching at the imam. Daring to lecture the imam. Never happen. It would never happen. You know why? Because those people know that they would come out and probably get hurt. So anyway, the Southern Baptist Mission Board said that he'd spoken to city's church staff members who reported that the kids in the worship service were terrified. In a later post, he added, "These intimidating tactics are not only illegal, but cowardly. No cause justifies traumatizing families as they worship and desecrate a sacred space." Okay. All right. Lots more there, but let's go back for just a moment to show you a little bit more from what we know. So, who was there in this allegedly sacred space that had been defiled by these leftist demonic nutters? And remember, as I said from the outset, don't be afraid to see what you see. Ronald Reagan said that. This was demonic activity. There is an entire movement in this country that is activated and based on the fact that their belief system is atheistic. I mean, that's the whole commie thing, right? They don't believe in God because that they really hate to be in competition. And they love the fact that God might actually be themselves. So let's go a little bit more here. And I know some of you guys are very, very upset with me because I gave you some good news about Donald Trump, and you really hate that. So here we go. Here's Don Lemon. Do you remember Don Lemon? If you do, Don Lemon, you'll recall, was a CNN host and got dumber as the years went on. And he's now working for himself, so at least he's wasting someone else's money when he goes to participate as a observer and co-conspirator in the sacking of the church service in Minneapolis.
Together again, this is an operation that is secret, that they invited folks out. Can't tell you what is going to happen, but you're going to watch it live unfold here on the Don Lemon Show. There are for this reason, it may look like MAGA coded, but there's a reason they have so many white people here. I'm just going to be honest. It's because of the
MAGA coded. He said that twice. This first time that he said it, I don't have that recording for you because I had this one, and I need to tell people that he said MAGA coded. And you know why it's MAGA coded? Because they had an American flag.
The operation that they're doing today. It's important to have allies, as they said, white allies here. So
what are you doing there then?
That is what I could say. I turned our camera off of them because they're giving some critical information here.
Why are you protecting them?
There we go. Everybody's ready to go.
Why is he protecting them? Oh, thus they're all going to go. And what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Well, Don's going to tell us.
Let's go. Okay. Thank you guys thanks for allowing me to be here.
Okay,
Thank you guys.
Okay. All right.
How are you?
Good
to see you. We're on. We're not saying what it is, what's going on, but thank you. Tell us why you're doing this.
So
This is Nakima Levy Armstrong. She's on the show
Nakima
on
Levy
Friday.
Armstrong, civil rights attorney, longtime activist here in the community.
Okay, she kept going on and on and on, and you'll see her in action in just a moment. Inside the church, here's Don Lemon inside the church.
Some coffee for y'all.
And donuts.
Oh, this is outside the church.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Talking about police.
You want some coffee?
You want some coffee? I trust Don Lemon coffee.
You want some coffee?
He ain't finna point you.
Thank
Let's
you.
get that
I
coffee.
love some
from him.
coffee. Thank you, Don.
Okay,
Great
good
to see you
job.
here. Thank
Look at
you.
Derek.
Perfect.
Okay, so Don Lemon brought them coffee and donuts. I'm reading some of the comments. So somebody called me a plastic face. Well, I mean, I'll take that because God knows it's better than the regular one I got. So plastic face, and then somebody said, I just got to, hey, you don't get to talk about plastic surgery, literally cutting critical parts off of people. Touche. Thank you. Oh, man. Don Lemon is a turd. Couldn't agree more. Don Lemon is not only a turd, but Don Lemon might be in some legal trouble now as a result. First of all, Don Lemon and those people who invaded the church, they tried to sack the church. And they interrupted and caused bedlam and terror amongst the people at that church. So that's a no bueno. But it's a First Amendment offense. You know, he has deprived them of their First Amendment freedoms to worship. That's right, worship their God and associate freely. So Don Lemon goes and talks to the pastor, and he literally lectures the pastor on the First Amendment, which I thought was pretty dang funny, considering that the pastor is exercising his First Amendment. Let's see, make sure I get this. Keith, First Amendment, here we go. Here's our First Amendment. What's the First Amendment say? Let's find out, shall we? First Amendment, Congress, this is what the government cannot do to you. So these people aren't the government, but these people in pursuit of breaking the rights, interfering with the rights of these people in this church, committed multiple acts, including trespassing. So Don Lemon, at some point in time, is talking to the pastor, talking to him about how I'm a reporter, you know, here, and these people are exercising their freedom of speech. No, they're not. They trespass to get in there. We don't know if they are armed or what. They are there intentionally to terrorize like the demons they are. First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or bridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. What's the first thing mentioned in the First Amendment? Oh, yeah. Religion. That's why they came to this country. Now, let's, as I say, clarifying to you that this is something that the government can't do to you. But in pursuit of their alleged First Amendment rights to try to sack this church service, they interfered with their ability to do their First Amendment. And as Harmeet Dillon reports, Harmeet Dillon is the civil rights lead of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, the Federal Department of Justice. And what she said is that it looks like there is a breaking of the law, the FACE Act, which is what they keep putting people who pray outside abortion clinics in prison for, breaking this law. Let's see what we got here. I just want to make sure.
Some coffee for y'all.
And donuts.
So he was in on this whole thing, Don Lemon was, and he knew.
Man wearing a suit is a preacher to Jesus.
Yeah, okay, buddy. Yeah, you just keep talking. So, so here's, let's see, where's my Harmeet Dillon thing? Hold on, I'm going to find it. Stand by. Harmeet Dillon, don't go away. She's going to talk about the FACE Act. Hold on. There we go.
Well, look, I mean, we have a presumption of innocence in this country, so I want to preserve my ethical duties here. But let me just say that, he's a journalist. He was a journalist. I don't know what he is now, but journalism is not a badge or a shield that protects you from criminal consequences when you are part of a crime. And I think the videos show how close he was to these folks. I think further evidence will show more information about that. But he clearly knew, and he stated before going into the facility, it's on his own video, what was going to happen there. What was going to happen was a violation of federal law, federal criminal law. And I don't know what to say. I mean, the FACE Act has been out there for more than 30 years, and there were lawyers involved in this so-called protest, and their purpose was to terrorize people of faith in a house of worship. They were targeting a different pastor, not the one seen on camera, who they got information was a ICE supervisor. None of that matters. It's off limits to go into a house of worship to do your little protest. Protests can occur on public property. Protests can occur outside, on a sidewalk, certain sidewalks, not all sidewalks. And this is like basic what you learn in the first year of law school. There's a time, place, and manner restrictions on the First Amendment right of protest, and they were violated here in this case. No question about it. The only question is who was involved, how many were involved, and how many charges are going to be brought here. Those are the questions.
So she's saying, okay, it looks like we need to, in fact, they've already started and they've already subpoenaed the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who clearly does not know his job. He has not said he's going to look into this obvious breach of the FACE Act and trying to interfere with people conducting themselves in a legal and free way at a church on Sunday morning. Indeed, he said the exact opposite. He said the opposite. Here is Keith Ellison on Don Lemon's podcast and said, you know what? People are just going to have to get used to stuff like this in church. Let's go. Oh, sorry, guys.
The voice of the public. So freedom of expression. People have a right to lift up their voices and make their peace, and none of us are immune from the voice of the public. So quite honestly, I think that you got the First Amendment, freedom of religion, and the First Amendment, freedom of expression, and I think that it's just something that you got to live with in a society. The protest is fundamental to American society. This country started in a protest. And, it's freedom of expression. People have a right to lift up their voices and make their peace. And none of us are immune from the voice of the public. So quite honestly, I think that you got the First Amendment, freedom of religion, and the First Amendment, freedom of expression. And I think that, it's just something that you got to live with in a society. The protest.
Yeah, that's not me on the sound. Sorry about that. That was just how crappy that sound was. The editing, all my fault. But so there is the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota saying that, hey man, it's just going to happen. This sucks, but they're just there doing their own thing, exercising their First Amendment rights, and who are you to say that that this is anything unusual or weird or, dude. Are you listening to yourself? They did it in a church where those people were using their own First Amendment rights to worship their God. Read the room, buddy. No, don't read the room. Read the Constitution. I wonder if he's ever read the Constitution. I know that I have this wonderful, wonderful image of, let's see, Allison, hold on. He's one of his favorite books. I know that. And here it is. Hold on. We've got Keith Ellison and his favorite book. Stand by here. There. Oh, there it is. There we go. Yeah. And you know who he's standing next to when he took this picture, holding up that book? He was standing next to a guy by the name of Luis, who is one of the OGs of Rose City Antifa. There you go. Okay, I want to say hello to John O'Connor. He's an attorney. He's a former federal prosecutor. He was, if you can believe this, he was Deep Throat's attorney. Yeah. Do you know who Deep Throat is? Watergate, Deep Throat. John O'Connor, welcome back to the Adult in the Room podcast. How are you?
Victoria?
You're looking good. Well, got a couple of things going on. The Insurrection Act. There are troops that are sort of standing by to determine, I think maybe Trump's keeping them on the sidelines just to say, hey, you know, I might do this, guys. Hey, guys, I'm really serious about this. But what do you think about the Insurrection Act and the fodder, the ground for going into Minneapolis under the Insurrection Act to stop these attacks on ICE officers?
Well, it's clearly authorized by law precisely for this. And the Insurrection Act says that you can send in troops when regular law enforcement is incapable of doing the job. That's one of the reasons you have it. And this started out, the ink was barely dry on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, I should say, barely dry on the Bill of Rights when George Washington went in, used force to put down the Whiskey Rebellion. So this is something that is not unconstitutional. In fact, even without the Insurrection Act, I think the president's powers give him the right to put down these types of unlawful demonstrations. Now, I will say this, Victoria, I'm just wondering, as a tactical matter, these people are sort of making fools of themselves, in my view. And it almost gives them fodder. They almost want there to be troops in there so that they can have this noble fight.
Yeah.
I think in the dead of winter, I think Trump ought to let them stay in the cold for 30 days and not do much and not say you're not doing anything, not act like you're giving in, but let them run around with their signs and shout and all that. And actually, without even saying it, I might even restrict ICE. I wouldn't take ICE away or anyway act like you're giving up. But I would restrict it to those, especially to activities where you really got some hardened criminals and you're doing some stuff that can't be criticized. But I do think there's a lot to be said for letting this thing play out and let these folks exhaust themselves. It's almost like letting a fish exhaust itself as you've got a hook in it. It's obvious that these folks are violating laws. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Every one of them could be prosecuted. They're impeding law enforcement. It's just textbook impeding, and they're being told to impede. And when Tim Walz says that he wants you out there, by God, witnessing and taking pictures and all this, we all know better. We all know that this is not just an exercise, which I would agree with. I think it's great to take pictures of law enforcement because they usually help law enforcement. And I think it's great to do all that and not be in the way. And that's the whole concept. If you're going to act like a journalist, you got to kind of get out of the way and not try to be in the middle, not try to be the story yourself. But these people are trying to be the story themselves. They are trying to impede ICE. That's why they're doing it. They're not doing it because they want to take pictures of ICE or just show the world what ICE does. That's the last thing they really want. You notice they don't come out with normal enforcement pictures showing the good work that ICE does. So it's an odd situation. And I think just following Martin Luther King Day, I think what he was really good at was not taking the bait toward violence, toward letting the other side expose themselves. And it's always the extremists who expose themselves. So I'm not sure, just as a practical matter, my advice to my client would be go easy for a bit. I think he's got every right to bring in the troops and at the proper occasion. Now, if he lures them into going too far, which in a way would be a good thing for the optics of it. If they obviously are going too far, bring in the troops. If they keep raiding churches and so forth and so on, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have National Guard stationed at churches or protecting churches and so forth, protecting people who are protecting ICE.
Wow.
It's an interesting subject.
Yeah, they might have to do that. Listen to Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. You might have heard it when you were in the waiting room, but I just want you to react to this, please, after Don Lemon and the, bevy of troubled people stormed the church.
The protest is fundamental to American society. This country started in a protest, and it's freedom of expression. People have a right to lift up their voices and make their peace, and none of us are immune from the voice of the public. So quite honestly, I think that you got the First Amendment, freedom of religion, and the First Amendment, freedom of expression, and I think that it's just something you got to live with in a society. The protest is fundamental to American society. This country started in a protest.
Okay, so he's conflating the what happened here with the nobility of the American Revolution. Okay, Keith. So, but now, what do you think about the I guess infiltration of this group into a church of people who are also following their First Amendment rights?
Well, that's right. They're interfering with the free exercise of their religion. Is that okay? We were arresting people, supposedly, and I think Keith Ellison would do this, anybody who is doing a peaceful protest outside of an abortion clinic, not in an abortion clinic, but outside of an abortion committee or a facility in public space. Those people have been arrested. Now, someone who then invades a free exercise of religion, that's protest? No, it isn't. I think Keith probably did not get A's in his constitutional law class, and I don't know that he knows the difference between free expression and action. And action is clearly subject to the criminal laws, and sometimes even expression is considered action, like the classic yelling fire in a crowded theater. But mostly the acts here of interfering with ICE, or if interfering in this case of the church with the free exercise of religion, that's a civil rights violation. That should be prosecuted. That's a dead banger. And these are the same people, of course, who want to prosecute people who are wandering around inside the Capitol with their horn costumes on and so forth, and nice people that are kind of wandering around. That's terrible. Of course, that's terrible. That's not a peaceful protest, but then getting in the way of ICE officers, getting in front of their cars, keeping them from apprehending people, and now to go to the extreme of harassing people who are cooperating with ICE. That's the next level. It's like it really is wrongful on so many levels. It just defies imagination.
Here's a question from one of the viewers today, and that is, but ICE can go into a church? Can ICE go into a church? Has ICE gone into a church? I've heard lots of reports, but I've never seen any of the video or anything. Under what circumstances might that happen?
I think they can. I think it's probably just the better part of wisdom not to do it. For example, if you're in hot pursuit of a felon and he goes into a church, it's not like you have to say, okay, we're not going in, but you have to use good judgment. If you're trying to arrest a tax cheater, you don't need to go into church. If it's a dangerous felon, you may have to go into church. But there again, I think law enforcement usually exercises discretion, and you don't see people getting pulled out of churches. That's what's interesting about it. ICE is recognizing boundaries, such as that you point out, Victoria, which makes sense. But the protesters, they don't know boundaries. There are no boundaries there because it's all under
Apparently
the
not.
rubric of all under the rubric of protest. It's not protest. It's impedance. It's interference. And I think we all recognize that.
I'm looking back here and grabbing one of your books here because I want to make sure everybody gets to see Mysteries of Watergate, What Really Happened. And, where's your other one?
You may have it right there, Postgate, right underneath
Where
there.
is
Is that Postgate?
Oh, here it is. It's right there in front of Yeah, Postgate. Go and get these books. If you've ever wondered what the real thing behind Watergate was, prepare to have your mind blown. If you are people who believe in the possibilities of, and he's not a nutter because he was Deep Throat's attorney. So there is that. So, John, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on again. And thank you for your expertise here. And I really appreciated the fact that you said, okay, so sure, he can invoke the Insurrection Act. He could, and it would be totally legal to do that. Should he right now? Nah, not yet. Not yet. Anyway, come back and we'll talk Watergate next time, too. I love that. Thank you so much.
That's great. So what's happening today, still going on. So great, Victoria. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you. Can you give us you said what's going on today is still going on. Can you relate that to what's happening in the news today with respect to Watergate so people at least get a taste about what you wrote about?
So I wrote in Postgate, and it's really a primer for what's happening today.
Yeah.
By distorting the facts and distorting history, including concealment of material facts, the press got rid of a popularly elected president. And they tried to do it in Watergate and so forth and so on, not in Watergate and Russiagate. But false reporting is political power. And so what happens, we are sacrificing public democratic knowledge. We're falsifying history, all in service of political power. So when we get events that are fraught with political implication, you will find false reporting. And the people who do this false reporting, I'm not so sure they think of it as false. It's as I say, it's partisan and adversarial. If you're a lawyer, you may not go to trial and reveal all the bad facts for your case. But if you're a reporter, you're supposed to do that, and they do not do that. And so what happens is we have false history written in service of political power, and that's all that is going on here. When you pick up a paper like the New York Times, you just do not get a balanced view of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's exactly right. Get those books. Or you can go also back and listen and watch previous interviews I've done with John O'Connor about his books and Watergate, because this was one of the things I wanted to delve into when I started this podcast 5 years ago, and we have. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate your time. I really do. Okay. ICE is violating the law every day, says one person. Womp womp. I'm not sure what that's all about, but whatever makes you feel better. Democrats don't care about laws unless they want to hide behind them. Well, that's an overt generalization, largely true. I'm just being sassy because so many people have decided that they're just going to pour acid on the comments section today. So what can I tell you? Let's see. Trump, whatever. What part of what I said triggers you? Yeah, so we got another fight in the calf between the commenters. Democrats are saying, what about Islam? What about Islam? What the hell does Islam have to say about American values? Not much, I will tell you. Thank you very much for bringing that comment up. Not a lot. They don't like American values. Now, you need to know there's the green and the red connection between the left and Islam. They have a temporary connection. They've decided that they're on the same team because both desire to bring down American ways, the American way of life, the Western thought, and what we cling to as our foundational principles. They don't like any of those. Neither side does. One's communist, the other is the Islamists who believe in things other. No, I'm not saying Muslims, all Muslims. I'm saying the Islamists, for whom America is just a lovely little spot to put their feet up for a while until they can take over, I don't know, New York City, Texas. Anyway, Dan Sandini's back on the Adult in the Room podcast. He just got off a plane. I can't believe you've been in here for the last several minutes, and I appreciate you coming on today because it's been an interesting situation that you've apprised me of, and one of the reasons that it is interesting is because it happened in my hometown, which is Portland, Oregon. And tell us what you found out.
Well, if people didn't catch the original story on your hello, Victoria, and thank you for having me on the program. First of all, let me jump right in.
Somebody's been on a cruise ship in a warm climate. Hello, Mr. Suntan.
Oh my God, it was so wonderful. I really like to say that it's wonderful to be here, but it'd be better to be back on the Queen Elizabeth, I have to say, but in the lower Antilles. But in any case, it was a great cruise. But going back to the original story, Victoria, which you had me on the program for, you go down, you have your listeners take themselves down to downtown Portland last October. And there's one of the videographers, Ocean Plot, who's videoing live. So in the old days with us, right, Victoria, Mike Strickland and I would call into your radio program, right, with our videos on YouTube. But now we've got the live feeds, right? Here we are 15 years later, right? And I'm watching the live feed on this. And out of nowhere comes, in the background of Ocean Plot's live, I see someone come out of the darkness, pull something out, which turns out to be a softball-sized rock, and smash Wes in the side of the head with this rock, okay, who is one of the other citizen journalists who's down there. And I'm like, holy God, that's the worst thing that I've seen since Strickland had his arm broken in 5 places.
Yeah, that was awful.
So that's terrible, right? It's terrible.
Sure. Here's what Ocean Plot put on his feed.
There's a fight going on right there.
Now, here is who he was talking to find out what was going on the streets of Portland. He's a very dispassionate storyteller and narrator, which I find refreshing in this fraught time on the streets of Portland. He's very unemotional, and I really appreciate that. And we'll play this several times so you can see the person taking the rock out of their pocket and just hitting somebody in the head.
Crazy. It's crazy. I'm sorry.
And I want to press charges too, then you smacked my phone in the It's all on camera. Back up!
My God, how many times do you have to play it? You don't have to play it once.
No, well, you gotta slow it down. It's really dark. It's hard to see. So yeah.
I mean, I know what I'm looking for.
So he comes up, he hits him in the side of the head, and knocks him out. Just knocks him out. And that's the shot, literally. Here's the chaser. Tell us what happened.
Oh, so after the guy got hit in the head with a rock back in October, what do you think the police and the district attorney did in downtown Portland? You know, shock among shocks, arrest the victim. Okay, so they eventually arrested the victim in this, who is Terrence Shadow. He goes by, his first name is Wes, and I really don't want to out him, although his name's out there in the media. I don't want to, but the poor guy, is on the ground. But prior to this, he had an altercation with a person who is in front of him, who has nothing to do with Rockman, nothing to do with it whatsoever, okay? But he had an altercation with the person in front of him. And so the district attorney charged him in that altercation. Perfect. There, you've got the graphics perfect. So I've tried to read through this thing several times. If you're a listener out here or a reader, don't spend too much time. But just I'll read the first sentence. Pursuant to the defendant's interview by Detective Evrason, case where defendant is the victim, try and put your head around that for a minute, is related. The defendant was trying to record someone. There was a large group around him intimidating him, and victim in this case smacked his phone out of his hand and pushed them away from him. Okay, I'm not saying the truthfulness of that or not, but it seems plausible, and I don't find anyone denying the facts of that case. But that altercation with the person in front of him has nothing to do with Rockman. But if you read through this thing, the district attorney in the case, whose name escapes me at the time, I think it's in this thing someplace, but is at least named in the Ocean Plot article. And if your listeners forget anything about this interview, go to my feed at Daylight Dis 1776. At the top, you'll find a posting to your program, and under that, Ocean Plot's story, which provides the name of the district attorney. But the district attorney in the case decided not to charge Rockman, okay? But they did charge the victim in this case, okay, who is Wes, okay, who had an altercation with the person in front of him who had broken his phone. He pushed that person falls down. The cops charge him, and they never get they were on the lookout for Rockman, okay, who turns out is a sex offender out of more eastern Oregon from downtown Portland area.
Yeah.
And in your story that you had me on for last, which turned out to be my story, okay, is Kostin Savransky, who's Kabowski Press. Links to him at daylightdisinfectant.com. You'll see the story at the top of my blog. Kostin later in November spotted the guy at risk to his own life, chased the guy down for the cops. You can see the video.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
That's over there. Okay, so Kostin put his life at risk, basically. These people wield knives, and now they shot 2 cops down in Northeast Portland yesterday, I guess. I'm just getting off a cruise ship, okay? But
yeah.
I guess in Northeast Portland, they shot 2 cops down there. But I guess the point of the story is, just like usual, Victoria, the cops decided to not chase down the guy to begin with. Okay. Then when forced to do so by a complaint by the real victim here, who's Wes, they did. The DA's office has decided not to charge the person who wielded the rock in the video that you just saw. Listeners, try and get your mind around that. It's obviously a come from behind attack, right, Victoria? This memo that you have in front of you says that it's self-defense.
I don't understand that. I do not understand how they could have gotten the fact that I think they want to default to, although they don't say it in their declination memo here, that it was probably mutual combat or something like that. But yet there was a perpetrator and there was a victim here, clearly a victim. And the person who was the perpetrator was, as you rightly said, a previously known sex offender. And then in addition to that...
We can't put his name, Gabriel Lyons. It comes to me as I'm talking to you. I should never forget. Gabe Lyons is the guy. Yeah, it's on my blog.
So the other thing is that he has a history of mental issues. So they didn't even want to get into that.
In the sex offender case, he went to the person's house. I mean, this is in the police reports. He went to the person's house with a Molotov cocktail on his bike and threw the Molotov cocktail. It's in the police reports. Okay, so this guy is a known violent criminal in the Portland area. And they detained him for a short period of time, and that's all the cops did. And then the DA, the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office, again, has let off another perpetrator. And, it's one of 2 things, Victoria, right? Or sometimes both. You either let go the leftist who committed a violent crime, which is the case in my case in 2010 where I was assaulted. They let go James Posey, who is now the head of the NAACP in Portland. Okay, you can't make it up. You cannot make it up. Okay, they let him go, and then in the Strickland case where he pulls his gun in self-defense, clearly self-defense, right? They'd assaulted him multiple times, pre-planned attack, charged the conservative. And I think that's really what I'd love your listeners to take away from this, is that district attorney's office, in my opinion, of course, this is an opinion, okay? I'm not making a case. There is a civil rights discrimination based on political belief. No different than if you were black or white being discriminated against, no other reason. And, I think that's really the point. And this makes the best case. And it's that is occurring for Harmeet Dillon. Are you out there? Harmeet Dillon. And, just pay attention to this one case. Take it in microcosm as something to understand in your attorney's office out there. And I'm having Wes do a complaint to it's easy online to do a complaint to the DOJ Civil Rights Department. And just put it down in paper that it's clear, right, Victoria, that this is the thing that's going on in Portland. Look at Strickland. Look at me. Look at Andy No with his concrete milkshake to the head, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's never known any justice down there either, And Nick Sorter now, the case is still open, right? He's suing the Portland Police Department, last I looked, for millions, okay? Because they did the same thing to Nick in one of the most recent cases as well. They charged Nick, which they quickly dropped, right? The minute the DOJ started looking into it, right? They dropped the case.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Sorter.
I mean, he has the DOJ on speed dial. Okay, so it's not like, I think they knew that. And he'd had some official people on the line like Tooth Sweet, and they got the message. But
they had a big meeting at the White House, but what's going on? Am I being too impatient? I think her investigation into the Portland police started in October.
Here's my take on that. And just between us and people we agree with. And that is this, and anybody who looks at the facts of the matter, Portland currently has a consent decree with the feds on the operation of its cop shop. And what I think, what I believe Harmeet Dillon is going to do is going to rewrite that consent decree and do it in such a way that the police department does actually have to accord the rights and the benefit of the doubt to the people who are not necessarily politically aligned to them. Previously, they were bending over backwards. Oh, well, we have to all cry at the idea of, somebody who was trying to kill two MS-13 members who were trying to, was that Trinidad Agua members who were trying to kill Border Patrol officers in their car, and all we got was the police chief crying. Now we had two cops shot last night. And did you see Baghdad Bob crying for those guys? Oh, no. He was laughing and chuckling. Probably out of relief because they weren't dead. But on the other hand, it was just absurd. Just absolutely absurd.
Gaslighting, right? He's
total gaslighter.
He actually, if I look back, I'm almost 100% positive. I can't give you 100%. I'll give you 85%. That in my case, the guy who took my evidence in my case back in 2010, Bob Day over in Northeast Portland. That's the cop who took the information for me over.
Seriously?
I think it is. Yeah.
Oh my
gosh.
I'm
almost 100% sure. Yeah. I handed him my reporter's notebook with the timeline for my case. And he said, "Do you mind if I copy this?" And of course, me, right at the time, I was, I didn't know what I know now, 15 years later, right? He disappears for at least an hour. I was locked in that interrogation room in Northeast Portland. I'm like, where the hell is this guy with my reporter's notebook? And he came back and handed it to me. I guarantee you that, and hopefully, eventually I'd like to do a discovery on those people. And I'm sure my entire reporter's notebook was recorded on that day, everything top to bottom. So they knew everything I knew at the time.
Yeah.
At the time, I was keeping physical notes, at the time.
Sure,
but
that's good. That's a good thing.
To know that Wes, who's, I think the focus here, Wes, right? People who haven't been assaulted in that way, like just when exercising their First Amendment rights like that, just will never know that the pain that people like Michael Strickland and Andy No go through. It's very hard. It's hard enough to deal with the physical aspects of that kind of case, but when you know no justice in the end, and where you are persecuted instead of the people that actually perpetrated the crime on you, it's the same as if you were discriminated against because you're black. It's the same as if you were forced to drink out of the different water fountain.
Sure.
It's exactly the same thing in my mind. And what's the way it goes on psychologically with people. So I just want people to know, and I want Harmeet Dillon to know, and likely she sees enough of these things that she deals with it all the time. That
Harmeet Dillon represented Andy Ngo on his lawsuits against the cop shop in the city of Portland.
I didn't know that.
She, of all people, knows every jot and tittle of the case against the city of Portland. She does. She knows.
Maybe that's why when she wrote down her action against them, she started it. She had to have a start date. She started it in 2010. And I was like, why 2010? It's long before Andy. But I think in my opinion, although I just filed my complaint with those folks, I think that I'm on her radar, that she knows about that case back then. Because
she might.
You Occupy.
Were back then. Occupy Portland.
Okay, yeah. Occupy was 2011, end of 2011, and then on to Breitbart and Occupy Unmasked in 2012. So yeah, likely that's when I was assaulted in 2010 at the Kitzhaber event, right after Obama was elected back then. And, for you people that are voting back, if you want more of the same, injustices in the state of Oregon, go ahead and vote again for Tina Kotek or stay home. Whoever the Republican Party, you've got to clean up they've got to clean up the Willamette Valley. I mean, it's truly, in this case with Wes, it's just the perfect microcosm, right? And it's right in front of us right now, right? I mean, that guy's got a clear lawsuit someplace, right? Who the hell in that district attorney's office? If you read that thing, go to at Daylight Disc 1776 and read the story by Ocean Plot that I put underneath it with that graphic that you've shown, and you try and make sense out of that. I guarantee have one of your listeners write in on your comments, make sense out of the DA's story. A C note. Okay, if someone can make sense out of that for me, I'll send them a C note. I swear to God, I will.
The only thing you need to understand is that they declined to prosecute.
Yeah, and I think that DA, Victoria, I'll just go on a limb here. That's a whistleblower that doesn't want to be known as a whistleblower. I will write something that makes so little sense that my boss told me I had to write something that it's this thing, okay? Because I know the facts of the case and I can't make any sense out of this. That thing is crazy. It really just makes no sense whatsoever. And they must have thought that nobody would ever do a Freedom of Information Act request about it. God bless Ocean Plot at Ocean Plot on
X.
On X, yeah. Just one of the only, I mean, there's some great citizen journalists out there, don't get me wrong, but they all have a bent and they're not as professional about it. But I think that this guy is trying to, I never went to journalism school, but he's trying to stick to the who, what, where, when, why, and how, stay as impartial as possible, although we all have a bent. He just seems like a great guy. I've had some back channels with him, and he's the guy who sent me the FOIA. I'm the one who reminded him. I said, hey, what's going on with Rockman? And boom, he did the FOIA like right away.
I'm really surprised. I've done public records requests for the police, Portland police, and they wanted to have an open-ended, give me your credit card number, and I knew that was, they were going to just increase the amount. It probably would have cost me hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they got.
I'm press. They're not supposed to charge us ridiculous amounts, but whatever.
I don't know that either. You get special rates or something like that?
Yeah. You're supposed to. That's whole part of it. After the Nixon administration, and they decided to have more freedom to get information from whence this law came. That was the deal, that you couldn't overcharge reporters for the records that they're asking for. So okay.
And it makes no sense, except in the case where you want to suppress the conservative viewpoint or keep people from doing what these people are doing, which is just exercising their First Amendment right. They are the as I was fond of saying back in the day, we're the Thomas Paines of our time, right? The equivalent of nailing something on a tree. And something you'll never get credit for, Victoria, but I know how it happened, is you and Jane Carroll and Lars Larson. And Lars Larson were the 3 a.m. radio talk show hosts that in the day before the live feed, we would film downtown, Mike and I, post it up real quick, and then call into your radio program. Right?
I remember, sure.
So there's that connection between the new media that Breitbart brought about, right, which is take your phone out and film something, okay, and AM radio, which got it instantly out to people during the days of Occupy and stuff like that. To me, that is a piece of history that connection between AM radio and YouTube is a piece of history that'll never get recorded, that'll never be emblazoned in the Smithsonian, or nobody will ever grab it. But you had the foresight and I forget who your producer was at the time, but
Eric the Great.
Eric, that's a guy. He would put us through, but that quick connection got the news out there. It changed, like the telegraph changed communication. That connection between AM radio and YouTube back in the day is something historical that you should be proud of, opening up the phone lines, I guess, for that kind of thing back in the Occupy day. But
yeah, that was an interesting time, Dan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for also highlighting this travesty of justice in the city of Portland again. And this just follows on to what occurred. Actually, the Seattle case that I was just hearing about this week that just happened where in June, an illegal alien who is wanted for a drive-by shooting in the United States was just put on trial, and a Seattle jury found him not guilty with overwhelming evidence. So there you go.
There you go.
Here we go.
Right?
Are we shocked?
How do we How do we clean up the justice system in the United States? Go to @DayLikeThis1776, drop a comment, or go to Victoria's podcast and drop a comment and tell us what we're missing here on how you clean up these DA's office that were corrupted back in the Obama days. I don't know, but it has to be fixed. Hopefully, Harmeet Dillon, are you out there? Please do something.
Thank you.
Do something.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you for everything you do. I'm so glad you're home and safe.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you. Take care. Okay, a couple more things. I'm just going to go to my default thing that I promised you I'd follow through on. Here we go. Watch this. I promised you that I would bring you back in touch with the president and his first year of accomplishments that he has spent the entirety of this program talking about. He has not repeated himself. Let us go to his news conference today. He's still Green
News scam, and I ended the insane electric vehicle mandate. Now you can buy a gasoline-powered car, a hybrid, and you can buy a electric vehicle. I mean, if you want electric, you can buy it. Make a good deal on them right now because they made a lot of.
Yeah, he's been speaking almost 2 hours.
Joe Biden's ridiculous CAFE standards. That's having to do with the environment. So ridiculous. Cancel the EPA's absurd, totally absurd, tailpipe emission standard, which made you spend hundreds of thousands. It made for hundreds of thousands of cars. The cost numbers were incredible that the consumer has to pay. Well,
anyway, so it's been fun spending this time with you this afternoon. There goes President Trump. First year in office. Sizzle Reel's awesome. Opened the show with it. And he's still talking.
We wouldn't have any car. We have now more car factories being built in the United States
get the biggest kick out of this.
before.
I used to do this on the radio all the time. And somebody says, are they still talking? Yes, they're still talking. Oh, gal. Sometimes he just goes on way too long, like me right now. Let's get you a few more comments. I'm gonna kill the. Hold on. Add to the stage. Let's go. Hold on. I just want to turn him down a little bit. He's talking about the tariffs now. Okay, so funny. Trump has mentioned more in the Epstein files than the Clintons. That's I can't even believe that to be true. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. Sure. So 17 visits to Bill Clinton's White House to have meetings with Bill Clinton. 27 rides on Epstein's plane. And you're telling me that Bill Clinton was mentioned less than Donald Trump? That's interesting. I'd love to know the context. Context actually matters in this situation. Let's see, Trump isn't protecting the Clintons again. Show the world how stupid you are. Yeah, he's not going to protect them this time. He did it for Hillary last time. Not even happening. And there's that lie again. Trump will send troops to every city in the country to distract from the Epstein files. He is a pedophile. Prove it. Show me he's a pedophile. You guys are so hoping that somebody will find dirt on Trump with respect to the Epstein stuff. Listen, honey, if they were going to do that, they would have done it. They would have done it already, but they didn't find anything. That's why they go, well, just release all the files. It couldn't possibly be true that he is completely innocent of anything. He's lived a big life. He and Epstein probably used to go out carousing in the 1990s, both rich bachelors, okay? And Melania knew the Epsteins. I can remember having a guest on this program who told me about being at a dinner with Trump and Melania. This is well before he was, in public office, and Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and their hosts and others, and said it was just very interesting. Just a very interesting thing. Did they talk about trafficking young girls? No, they didn't. Shockingly, isn't that interesting? Who kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club, his very exclusive club, because Jeffrey Epstein was trying to move in on the daughter of a member? That would be Donald Trump who kicked him out. Do you know what that means? For all those, I don't know how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars you have to pay to become a member. Epstein is not my hero. He's a terrible person. He's an interesting guy, though. He definitely was working for intelligence, because he was doing all the deals for all the gun runners around the world. That's what he was doing. That's what I think. Let's see. Remember when Epstein had, huge crash out because, don't know. Epstein had a huge crash out because President Trump dragged him through the mud. I don't know. No, I don't remember that. I don't, but on the other hand, there isn't that much context that has them in the same place at the same time. Now, I heard this kid. Let me just show you this outrageous comment. Let's see. Hold on. That was said on CNN. Okay. This is what someone got away with saying on CNN this week.
Is being transparent about this. I would love it if he was more transparent about the human sex trafficking network that he was a part of, but you can't win them all.
Cameron's grateful that the president is being transparent about the Nobel Peace Prize and his desires for Greenland. Scott, what do you think about that?
You going to let that sit? Are we going to claim here on CNN that the president is part of a global sex trafficking ring, or?
Well,
I mean,
we're going to talk about the Epstein file. Scott, I will do the fact checking as we go along.
I'm in charge here.
What you said about the global sex trafficking ring?
That Donald Trump was provably very involved with it.
Okay, we'll get to that later.
Provably. That guy's, I got news for that kid, that 25-year-old talking head on CNN. I got news for him. He's going to get sued. He is going to get sued. Let's see. Why did the Clintons skip out of their depositions before congressional members? Because they just figured they wouldn't have to suffer any problems as a result of blowing it off. And remember when they claimed executive authority in the Trump White House, and Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro did that, and they were publicly shackled, at least Peter Navarro was shackled at the airport. And Steve Bannon got to give himself up, but it was still a public thing. And they did time in prison for contempt of Congress. I don't know why Hillary and Bill think that they would get away with that. I honestly just don't even know. Don't even know. Anyway, so there's no proof so far that Donald Trump had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein's kid diddling stuff with younger girls. And yeah, abortion is eugenics, genocide. Yeah, I guess that would be true. That's closer than anything else that they call genocide these days, for sure. Let's see. I don't know. There's a lot of internecine warfare going on here. Anyway, a lot of these commenters don't like Donald Trump. Why is that? Because the Epstein files? Is that why you don't like him? Or did you just hate him beginning at the very moment in 2015 when he said, I'm going to run for president? And he came down the escalator. Likely, I mean, if you were a sentient being at that time or not in high school, maybe that was your moment where you decided, you know what, I don't like that guy. But I got a lot of news for you. Like this kid the kid from CNN, kid previously said during this conversation where he decided that he was going to libel the president. And you can actually, if you have malice aforethought, you can be found guilty of libeling someone who's a public figure in the United States of America. So, heck, the president of the United States is currently suing his old bank. I want to say it's Chase, but I don't have time to go look for the exact name of it. I think it's Chase, not sure. Be that as it may, it's because they debanked his family. They kicked them out so they couldn't get any credit, anything, after January 2021. Debanked his companies. Yeah, just like he was a Canadian trucker or something. That's some cold-hearted stuff right there. That is very interesting. And he's not going to let him forget it either, because he did it for political reasons, not because he was a financial risk or anything. So that's going to be interesting. ICE is arresting U.S. citizens based on... No, they're not. Here's this Yolanda chick has been on the comment stream spewing all kinds of lies. They're not doing anything based on color and breaking laws, spelling color. She must be in Canada. While doing so, and y'all are so spineless, you defend the KKK, Gestapo, pedo, personal army, the fall of us. Let's talk about that for a second. So she says that ICE is arresting citizens based on color. Now, where do you get that? Where do you get that? In fact, I'm going to go look up something really fast. Hold on. Well, the reason I bring it up is because I had the funniest story cross last week, and I wanted to find the information for you. And once again, it's not here. Here we go. Let's see. Hold on. FBI. Okay, I don't know why I can't find it. I don't know what the hell is going on here. It just makes me so angry. When they got the FBI car, remember in Minnesota? I'm on the West Coast. In Minnesota, they remember when the Border Patrol guy, I think it was Border Patrol, got jumped by a guy that he was supposed to be arresting, and then they started hitting him with a shovel. And then two guys come out with another shovel and a broomstick and start beating the Border Patrol officer. He replies with shooting them, and since he was on the ground being beaten, which she'll never acknowledge, I'm sure, he shot him in the leg. And what was interesting about that was they had a warrant to go arrest this person who was a gang member, who was from a different country and was illegally in the country and had been wanted for, I think, he was just a gang member. I can't remember what his rap sheet was at the moment. And so after that, the FBI, and they had no backup. They had no one coming to help them because the Minneapolis police would not keep the violent mob away from ICE and the Border Patrol. So they abandoned these cars. They locked them, did what they could. And what happened? The mob came, broke into the cars, broke into a lockbox, broke into files that were very sensitive, and they found all kinds of stuff, including warrants. Including warrants.
Damn, they fucked this car up. You got a flashlight on here.
Now, so they get into the car. They, sorry about the language there, folks. Get into the car and let's see. Here we go. Car docs. Here we go. This is the one I want to. Which is. Oh, it's the same one. Damn it. Ah! They came up with a stack of warrants. These are the same people like our friend Yolanda in the comments section saying that, oh, they're arresting U.S. citizens based on the color of their skin. They've already arrested 3,000 people in Minnesota. 3,000 people. And you know what? 150 are U.S. citizens. And why did they arrest U.S. citizens? Because they attacked ICE officers, not because of the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, which is subterranean. So there you go. They're arresting U.S. citizens based on color. No, they're not. They're doing it based on warrants. Remember those warrants you guys claim they don't have? Remember that? Yeah. They're doing it based on warrants. Dillweeds. Epstein. Well, that's true. Anything else that sounds good to include towards the, now that we're at the end of the program? It's the Leering Center. Yes, absolutely. Maybe that's what, maybe Yolanda went to the Leering Center. Is that what happened? Because we know we just put the lie to the false claim that ICE is arresting people for the color of their skin. To the extent that the color of their skin is involved in the warrant, which would have to have some sort of reason behind it, like they're in the country illegally and are wanted for a crime, which is more than enough to arrest somebody. And if they happen to be something else, sorry, go back to the Leering Center and figure out how to do things right with your life. I don't know. Hey, Infidel, are you asking if I know the definition? Oh, God, here we go. It's another one of those dumb comments for between the people. Just fine. Anything else? Anything else before we say goodbye? Anything else? Oh, God, lots of comments, but none of which I can share because I don't know the backstories of all the comments. Oh, look, here we go. Here is, before we go, one more time. President Trump still going through this news conference where he went through that book talking about all of his accomplishments in the first year. And yeah, so here we go. Anyway, so I just thought I'd continue the bit. Here we go. For another edition of the Adult in the Room podcast. Have a great and wonderful day, and we'll see you back here on Thursday. I hope to have a very interesting guest on Thursday. Fingers crossed. All right. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.